this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. We welcome the listeners of WUFT in Gainesville, Florida this week as we take your questions from around the country about artificial intelligence at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. As always, Tolliver is here.
Jeremy, I've actually been AI this whole time. I've been studying your every move.
Tell me. You know, Tolliver, we just heard like a week ago or so that Taylor Swift was named the Person of the Year. But frankly, you could make the case that ChatGPT, this was the year that AI really went mainstream, that ChatGPT could be the Person of the Year. So we asked ChatGPT, and you know what it said? It said, the concept of naming AI and ChatGPT as Time's Person of the Year is intriguing because they have significantly impacted society and technology, making it a strong contender. However, the designation as Person of the Year typically implies a focus on human beings.
That is such a modest little robot. That's so cute. I think once they figure out how to make human hands, then maybe they can be Time Person of the Year, you know?
All right. So as we said, this week, this hour, we are asking for your questions about artificial intelligence. What are you most concerned or hopeful about when it comes to AI? Our number 844-4MIDDLE. Before I introduced our guests, last week we asked you if democracy itself is at stake in the 2024 elections. A lot of people called in. Take a listen to some of the voicemails we got.
Yeah, calling from Anchorage, Alaska. My name's Richard.
Hi, my name's Todd. I'm from Sarasota, Florida.
Hi, my name is Dee Marie, and I'm calling from Nashville, Tennessee.
My name is Jacob Jones, and I'd just like to say that a choice between the most unpopular president and the second most unpopular president isn't much of a choice.
I am not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am firmly in the middle. Democracy is under threat. It is in trouble.
Whether our democracy is in danger or not, I don't believe it is necessarily imminent. I think the media has to play a very important role in keeping democracy alive.
I do think that democracy is under threat. There is a concerted effort to do away with the democratic system as we know it. You have to be willing to take a stand and defend the democracy as we know it, if it means that much to you.
Well, thanks to everyone who called in. So this hour, again, what do you want to know about AI? Do you have concerns about it, or are you excited about the possibilities? Joining us to help answer your questions, Kara Swisher, who is known in Silicon Valley as the most feared and well-liked tech journalist. She is host of the popular podcast On with Kara Swisher and Pivot. She's also about to release a brand new memoir, Burn Book, A Tech Love Story. Kara, so great to have you on The Middle.
Thank you. We have to dispense with that. That was years ago in a profile in New York Magazine, and it stuck with me like mold. I'm not well liked, so let's just keep that.
Okay. Also joining us, entrepreneur Tim Estes, CEO of Angel AI, which is a personal AI for kids. He also sits on the board of the Nashville-based innovation studio. Tim, welcome to you.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Excited to be on.
It's great to have you. And Kara, a year ago, you had probably heard of ChatGPT. I hadn't. I heard of it first in January of this year. Now it has more than 180 million users globally. And then Google just introduced its new AI, Gemini Ultra. Are these chatbots how most people are using AI today, or are they just the most visible way?
I don't think a lot of people are using it yet. It's at the beginning stages, just like the early internet. And so most people, where they're probably seeing it more is when it's integrated into things like Gmail and things like that. And that's where it's not quite like the internet where you go to it and you type something in. It will be integrated into all the apps. It'll be integrated into the internet or services or insurance or whatever. And so you won't see it. This just happens to be a consumer application of it. But there'll be lots of chats. There's of all kinds, and people will build them like apps, like an Uber app was built on the back of the iPhone. So you have to think of it in a slightly different way than the internet, even though the internet's everywhere and it's more like moving into becoming like electricity. This is what's going to happen here. It's going to integrate rather quickly with everything.
It did seem though with ChatGPT like, wow, I can't believe we're at that level technologically at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, because it's the latest new thing. It's certainly impressive, but they've been working on it for a long, long time. And that's what, I heard about it 10 years ago or 10 or more years ago from people like Sam Altman and Elon Musk and others who were talking about it. And, at different times it's called machine learning, superhumans. They've all kinds of words. It's been being worked on for Dr. Fei Li, who I just interviewed, was working on ImageNet, which was a version of it, an early version. And so it's been worked on. I think it's just you're getting to see it and it evolving in front of your eyes. And if you go back and look at like original Yahoo pages, they're really weird looking. Like they're like, what is this? What is this funny contraption? What is this butter churn here? And that's where it is now. It won't look like this going forward because it is somewhat crude, even as it is what is happening now.
So you're saying maybe it'll end up being the Alta Vista or Lycos of chat.
No, I don't know which one. It'll be a lot of them. Everyone will have one. Right. Everyone has to have one. And so it's just that if you want to think of it in the simplest terms, it's the supersizing of the internet, or digital technologies.
Tim Estes, what do you think is the most significant way that AI is already changing society?
Well, I think there's sort of good ways and probably bad ways that it's changing society today. It's already been ubiquitous for many, many years. I mean, early forms of ML and AI, date back to recommendation engines and core search and pieces. And as Tristan Harris, who leads the Center for Humane Technology, I think makes a very good point. Like, we're kind of in the second engagement of AI. Social, in many ways, was enabled through a bunch of AI techniques to scale and recommend. And, in many ways, there's a good argument that a lot of social has had negative impacts, especially among young people, more so than positive. And so in some ways, there is this balance of we are able to manage an overwhelming amount of information that would be impossible without AI. However, that management of information has hooked humans directly up to the machine, and it's arguable if we really should have been. So by sort of hooking into this before we had an AI to balance out, the AIs in the cloud and the servers, so like a client-side AI, until we had balance between the user and the services, in many ways, the humans have become the product. And that's probably like the biggest challenge, is that how much is AI used in an exploitative way? And then you can already think of all these ways it's used in an automation enhancement way. So it's that balance and sort of, human nature hitting this wave of technology and seeing good and ill in it.
Let's go to the phones. And Marie is calling from Salt Lake City, Utah. Hi, Marie. Welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Hi. My concern with AI specifically is academic dishonesty or honesty, specifically in a high school setting. And are there concerns or possible regulations for this?
Are you in high school, or do you teach in a high school?
I'm currently a high school student, and
wow.
So it's where is the future going for this?
Okay, have you had to use AI? Have you been using ChatGPT in your high school?
It has not been in my curriculum. However, some of my peers have used it in a non-super honest way for assignments, but they can't really get caught because it's like almost their own work.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Marie,
And you can't get caught.
Yeah, go ahead,
can I
Kara.
interject?
What your thoughts about that?
You will absolutely get caught because there's AI working on catching you. Students have one of the problems was the media immediately zeroed in on this students cheating. So students have been cheating for centuries through a variety of technologies, all kinds of technology. In my day, you wrote something on a piece on your hand, which was a very exciting way to do it. This is going to be an issue, but there's going to be just the way they've been catching through other methods, that there will be AI to catch this. And so it won't, and teachers really do know when it's an AI generated. It's really, they'll do it for some things. Although to me, the most exciting thing is helping education, helping you consolidate, do timelines, do historical. It's actually a tool, the way the internet is the tool, and can also be a distraction and a horror show for teens in terms of self-esteem. But it has a lot of really amazing educational applications for learning that we haven't even begun to plumb because we don't know. We don't know what it could do. It's because it's up to the creativity of educators and others who make these technologies.
Tim, you're working on it for kids right now. Just briefly, like how do you expect it will be used by younger people?
Well, I think it offers an amazing power and maybe a way to get some balance back. So, for instance, I've got a 5 and 7-year-old boy, so I got 2 kids, and my 7-year-old loves building with Legos. And so, with an AI experiment that we've worked with Angel, teaching him division, the AI will use analogies from Lego building to help him understand it. And so, the ability now in these modern language models to essentially translate between conceptual frameworks based on these internal representations that have been learned from all of this giant corpus of the internet opens up a level of personalization and therefore potentially a level of augmentation of kids that has never been possible before.
Tolliver, there has been no shortage of warnings from experts about how dangerous AI could be or how it could negatively impact a lot of aspects of society.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the late British physicist Stephen Hawking speaking with the BBC in 2014 about the potential dangers that AI poses to humanity.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful. But I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Once humans develop artificial intelligence, it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate.
Kara Swisher, that was in 2014.
Yeah.
Are you worried about this?
Elon Musk was the same way. He came to one of my conferences and talked about, a Terminator-like future with these things. And it's one of the reasons he invested in OpenAI early, which was his fear and loathing about what was happening. And also the power of big tech companies taking over this, because that has certainly come true. And so, I think what he was, I'm not Stephen Hawking, so I'm not going to argue with him. This is a direction it certainly could go in, just like nuclear energy can go in the direction of weapons and some very incredible energy, clean energy, for example. And so I think one of the things I always say, I'm not necessarily scared of AI. I'm scared of people using AI and the uses, whatever they want to create.
That is Kara Swisher. We've got more of your calls coming up right after this break.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured 2 prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
to be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. We have no algorithms involved in the selection of guests or callers on this program. It is completely human-powered. I'm joined by tech journalist Kara Swisher. She's host of the podcast Pivot and On with Kara Swisher, and AI entrepreneur Tim Estes, CEO of Angel AI. Our question this hour: what are your questions about artificial intelligence? Are you concerned or excited about the possibilities? Are you already using AI in your business? Tolliver, what's that number again?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353.
And let's get right to the phones. And Murray is calling from Western Minnesota. Murray, go ahead.
Hello. I have a question. I'm wondering if AI could do something like do an immediate fact check on someone like Donald Trump as he's giving speeches or talking about things, and if AI could say that's not true, or somehow it could identify that a statement made by a person like him or anybody, a politician, would, correct it right away and say, this is not a factual statement.
Murray, thank you. Tim Estes, this is a concern a lot of people have about AI is influencing politics, coming up with things that make it look like what the politician is saying, but it's actually a deep fake or something like that. What about fact-checking politicians or using it in a good way to deal with misinformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's a difficult question. The answer is yes, it can. But I think the question ends up being how well engineered and how much safety is in that engineering. So today, the language models that could process that type of real-time statement and have a view of it, if connected to essentially factual data historically, they will often, still miss subtleties. Like the more advanced models are better at this. And then you have an issue of bias. And so there probably has to be a model to do this, which essentially has things that are very definitely like true and true, and then a set of areas where there's sort of different views. And so often the political, we want to polarize and have like true and true, and then you have a sort of opinion where there's still the debate going on. So I think that being thoughtful so that you don't seem biased one way or the other in that is kind of the missing link. So it calls for a language model in the middle, if I could say that. For this,
is that possible for AI to do that, to be thoughtful in that way?
It's absolutely possible. A lot of these issues are a failure of training. I mean, you have to think about like GPT-4 in many ways is consuming and hoovering up most of the internet and compressing it into this representation. And much like us going through, an enormous library and skimming all the books and then kind of knowing what it said, but still not remembering every single detail, that's kind of what we're seeing, amplified 1,000 or 1,000,000 times here. And so with that, yes, it's possible, but what's missing is machine education. So we spend all this time, trying to educate our children into the truth, right? To have good citizens, to have a better society. And yet we have a technology that's going to inform kids and adults. And you could argue we went really sloppy to get scale. And I think there's some really interesting research showing that there was a paper earlier this year called Textbooks is All You Need. And it was an interesting point to show that extremely well curated, truthful data sets of small size could be nearly as effective at massively larger data sets.
Let's go to Daisy in Haley, Idaho. Hi, Daisy. Welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm a 68-year-old woman. I have a very big problem understanding the language of AI. I don't respond well to computers. My big fear is that young people who haven't developed critical thinking and haven't developed their intellect yet and have brains that are developing are going to use this, and somehow they will be influenced by the way that AI speaks to them and the language, and they will be almost encouraged not to think for themselves, but to come up with a pretty way of saying what's maybe in their hearts, but not their brains, if that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting point, Daisy. Kara Swisher, I think about the way that I already have a bad sense of direction, but now that I've been using, Google Maps for years, it's even harder for me. I don't think for myself as much in direction. What do you think about what Daisy had to say there?
Do you have to? Do you have to think for yourself on that? Like, I think some of it depends on what it is, right? And I think this has been happening forever as we automate and we do different things. Again, I'm sorry to sound like an old crone, but it's like, well, guess what? This is the development of modern civilization with digital tools. You could say we don't know how to use a card catalog anymore. Is that a good or bad thing? It just is. Like, that was a skill. I had it. I don't have it anymore. Searching, everything else. This is what happens as technology eases certain duties that we used to do by hand, and we have to get used to that. I do think, I think this goes back again. Did television deaden everyone? It kind of did. Did radio? It kind of did. Did the Gutenberg Bible? I mean, that was a crazy time when that happened, until they got education and everything else. There was like witch burnings for centuries went on because of that. And so this is just another transition. I think information at your fingertips is the best goal of this thing. Is that a good or bad thing? I think many could argue it's a good thing that we have some commonality. We can have information. I think the problem is misinformation, it being manipulated. And again, people are the problem, not the technology. The technology is a tool or a weapon, and it could be used either way. And this one particularly because the way I describe it to people is it's like the internet, except when you search on Google, you get to a bunch of sites. Now it will bring you the things in the sites that are most useful to you and collate them and organize them. I don't know if that's so different than a lot of other, processed foods, prepared meals, fast food. Like, some of them are good, some of them are bad. All of them are coming.
Amelia is with us from Marietta, Georgia. Amelia, go ahead. Welcome to The Middle.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've been using ChatGPT since it came out, and it's been like another person in our workplace almost. I, was saying earlier that my company has been trying to get equipment sales and other types of things honed in for our business, but we're a very small business. We don't have IT people to teach us and to build databases and stuff. And ChatGPT has helped me in building databases and writing code. I've never coded in my life until I started using ChatGPT, and it'll hallucinate once in a while. But even when it hallucinates, it points me in the right direction, and it's become a new tool in my toolbox that works.
Do you think that you have had to lay off people or not hire people because of your use of AI?
I don't think we ever would have hired somebody to do what I was doing, building the database and coding stuff. It was just something that we've always wanted, that we always needed, but because we're such a small business, we would have never been able to afford to pay somebody to create that system for us. So I don't think it really prevented us from hiring or we definitely didn't let anybody go. And so I think that it's just become a really great tool.
Amelia, thank you for that call. Tim, let me ask you, this is something that a lot of businesses are already using in many different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you just heard a case study in productivity gain, right? I mean, so she has a good example of something where you're creating net new capability and not at the expense of something. So that's a good example of the positive. So businesses, I believe today, the what's happened in the last 18 to 24 months is uh, various skill sets that were mostly the manipulation of human language at a certain level, not at level of, say, a very sophisticated writer like we have on this show, but at a basic level, a supportive level, is now able to be scaled and automated, as well as a different way to package and summarize information at a very broad level, and then to personalize that. So those are pretty powerful things, and those are basic kind of tasks that you might have interns, if you would, do. Now, I do believe there is a cautionary tale here that we need to be a little aware of, which is people have to go through stages of development, and often people enter into entry-level jobs so they can learn skills and increase, their knowledge and become more and more advanced, and eventually move on, into more advanced efforts in leadership. And if you take away the entry-level part because you've automated it away, there's going to have to be some societal response to that, or else we're going to sort of stop the flow of growth. And I'm not saying that that's an inevitable thing. I'm just saying that there's likely a disruptive phase before we sort that out as a society. When you go from 95% or so agrarian down to 3% now or something, over a course of, probably several decades, we're going to see some of these job areas shift that fast in a space of 5 to 10 years, maybe even faster. And so there needs to be a lot of empathy, I think, about this. And especially speaking as a technologist and working with others, sometimes we get so excited about the potential of the future, we don't give enough empathy to the transitional realities. And that's something that, I think needs to be discussed more.
Well, and the Pew Research Center says 19% of Americans are in jobs that are at high risk of being replaced by AI, including specific professions like budget analysts, tax preparers, technical writers, and web developers. Tolliver, I know we have an important tweet that has come in.
Yes, Kristen in Kansas City tweets, "Tell Kara she's wrong. She's immensely likable and freaking brilliant." Shout out to Kristen.
There you go, Kara. She says that. Let's go to
That's not wrong. And also, you just brought up something which was interesting was, jobs will be affected. I'm often at parties where people talk about this. And of course, it's white collar jobs you're talking about this time. Nobody minds when they get their Amazon thing quickly, or nobody minds when they get their strawberries for $4. Guess what? Strawberries don't cost that. They cost it because it's automated. And so this is just reaching up into a higher level of people in terms of not better people, but better paid people. And that's what the question is, should it be automated? And should then those people be free to do better things that are more creative? Should there be law student, like bait stamping with law? Why was the person doing that? Why is a person doing a lot of stuff? And so could you use as an opportunity to move people out of what are essentially dead end or thoughtless jobs and move them into other things? That's the challenge we face.
Let's go to Joseph in St. Louis, Missouri. Hi, Joseph. Welcome to the middle.
Hi. Yeah, so I just wanted to say I found AI like ChatGPT very useful, but my knowledge of it is pretty surface level. So my question is really, when can we decide that it's smarter than us? I heard some talk about the singularity. What defines when AI becomes smarter than us? Because I've heard the stories of how it can already pass all these high level exams and do all these things that are way smarter than me. So I wasn't sure how you define that.
I'm wondering that as well. Kara, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, that was at the heart of this OpenAI. Well, sort of at the heart. What was the heart of that OpenAI thing was just a power play between human beings, which again has gone on forever. But it really was the idea of these, they're called accel and decel, decelerationist and accelerationists. And there is a very big middle ground between these two. One is the doom scrollers who think Terminator 3, essentially, which was the worst of the movies. And there's those that think you got to go because it's going to help pollution. It's going to solve energy. It's going to solve this. It's going to solve that. It's going to solve cancer. All kinds of stuff that's very actually quite possible when you start to realize the computing power here. And so the argument is when it becomes self-aware, AGI, generative AI is self-aware. And that is, many people argue about this. Most people that I know who I think are great AI scientists do not think that it's aware. Others do. They just do. They think it is. And so I think that we probably won't know it when they do it, because then they'll hide it from us, I guess. This AI isn't human. It doesn't have the same emotions we are. It doesn't want to, say, create an insurrection in the Capitol on January 6th. It doesn't want to do that. It doesn't have those aims. The worry would be,
but couldn't it have those aims in a few years?
No, why? It doesn't care. One of the things that Elon Musk said, he had originally thought it was going to treat us like house cats, eventually. But then I think he had the better analogy, where it's like they're going to build a highway and there's an anthill in the way. We don't think about the anthill. We just build the highway, right? We're not trying to be mean to the anthill. It's just there, and we don't even know it's there, really. And so that would be more of the thing, is if you tell it to make as much money as possible in the stock market, it might cheat, because guess what the data it's getting about humans who have cheated. Because humans, it's going to learn from us. We are AI. That's the problem. Is that it'll say, oh, then I'll cheat, or make everybody able to eat. Well, might it come up with the idea that maybe we'll kill 1 billion people, because that'll work. But we just have to tell it what not to do, right? Don't do that. Do this. Here are the prime directives, whatever they happen to be. But humans are the problem at every stage of this development.
You agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I think it's pretty profound what Kara just said. I think honestly that when we look at the current maladies from technology, it's not the smartphone's fault. It's the software that was designed to put on the smartphone, which is exploitive and impacts human attention and concentration, addiction, all these other things. So in the same thing, the most dangerous thing essentially is a failure of values and business ethics being enabled with more technology to go to another level with it. And so, it's almost very much like the Julius Caesar line, the fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves.
Yep.
And I think there is a lot of truth in that for this moment. Now, I do believe the thing missing, and this is where, when you look at sort of the A cell versus the D cell, this kind of constituencies, which are good because it polarizes, it creates almost like a crossfire kind of thing in Silicon Valley going on. What's missing in it, honestly, is humility. And I think I come at this thinking that much like, the genetic research around viruses that the Obama administration had banned and then essentially got overturned in the last administration, I think there's immense consequences to humans messing around with things in a way without taking into account many of the unexpected consequences. And so I believe at the core of this is the technology industry as a whole has been insulated from liability at a level that almost no industry has.
Yes, indeed.
And so without liability, there will be no limits. And so I believe that if we can restore a level of moral hazard, like in liability, and I see this in social media, I see it where you have videos that TikTok serves up and 10-year-old African-American girls in Philadelphia hang themselves from watching it. And then the parents sue and the judge throws it out over Section 230. And you're just like, that's never what it was intended to be. And so I think there is an imbalance that has to get sorted. And if we can do that, we'll have less of the risk, but the risk is in human nature. So I can agree 100% with Kara on that.
There are lots of doom and gloom in some of the predictions for how AI will impact humanity. But on the other hand, many people are excited, Tolliver, about the potential benefits.
Yeah, and medicine is a field where we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm. Here's Dr. David Agus, who directs research on AI at the University of Southern California, my alma mater, talking on CBS about what AI can do for you.
Computers are better at picking up tuberculosis than humans are. Imagine you're in an emergency room and there's 100 x-rays a doctor has to look at. Well, maybe the computer can look first and say, hey, doc, pay attention to this one because we think it may be pneumonia. And that patient can be treated quicker because they go to the head of the line, their x-ray. So there's a lot of potential how it's going to transform what we do as physicians.
Kara, just a few seconds here, but what do you think is
Let me give you, David's one of my doctors, just so you know. He has a center funded by Larry Ellison. I love David, but he's a tech lover, so he's going to say that. But he's right about the medical parts. It's really exciting. There's so many exciting things, whether it's gene folding or cancer or identification or drug interaction. It just goes on and on and on.
Well, and I know that doctors are already saving hours every day in some cases using AI so they don't have to write up all the notes at the end of the day that
Yeah.
they typically
Also,
do.
doctors are wrong. I hate to tell you this.
Sometimes AI is right, doctors are wrong.
You're human.
Yep.
And we are human too. And we've got more humans coming up on The Middle right after this break.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of bitch. Come round here with my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. We're talking this hour about artificial intelligence. What are your questions and concerns about it? If you're already using it, how? Our number, 8444-MIDDLE. Our guest, Kara Swisher, tech journalist and host of the podcast Pivot and On with Kara Swisher, and AI entrepreneur Tim Estes, CEO of Angel AI. Let's go to the phones. John is with us from Chicago. Hi, John. Welcome to The Middle.
You know, I had a question. I wonder if the advent of AI doesn't represent an evolutionary moment in the development of our species. You know, it's said that evolution is a process by which we achieve higher and higher levels of self-awareness. And I wonder if that isn't the definition of AI. You know, I'd welcome comments from your panel.
Great question, John. Tim, I'll go to you on that one. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there are people that do believe that. I mean, Kurzweil has believed that for a long time. You could argue that a lot of the ideology driving in Google has kind of got that as a subtext. So I think that there is reason to believe that, you know, technology has always come alongside a biological evolution and pushed human beings forward. What I want to be very careful of, though, is you can potentially take that too far and idolize that, and that might make you make unsafe decisions, unsafe relative to the empowerment of AI before it's tested because you're so excited about what its impacts could be. I think as we start to merge, humans and machines, sort of these human computing bridges, like what Elon's working on with Neuralink and others, like this is a very interesting area to be very careful about. And that it might take some real evaluation to know the long-term effects of these kind of integrations, even though there's a lot of potential in it. So I think that's kind of where I would say I resounds a culture when you, or some caution when you start messing with the nature of the species and what that means. But on the whole, it's kind of a non-issue in that there's been technology advancing our evolution now indefinitely. It's what makes humans unique is we have technology.
By the way, Kurzweil, you were talking about, is the futurist and Google AI exec who believes AI will blend with our brains within a decade.
It's the singularity. It's called the singularity.
Right. Yep.
He also likes to take a lot of vitamins. He's going to live forever.
Okay. Let's go to Christine, who's in Sutton, Massachusetts. Hi, Christine. Welcome to the middle.
Hi, thank you. I am a middle school fine arts educator, and this evening we did a drama production entitled Holiday Chat GPT. Our students used the Chat GPT platform to generate original scripts that they programmed with the parameters of what they were looking for with their ideas, and then they were able to use their critical thinking skills to analyze what Chat GPT produced and then tweak it and refine it and then take off with it and create 4 original scenes that they used it for.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad. Christine, thank you for that. Let's go to Luce, who is calling from Tampa, Florida. Hi, Luce. Welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to call on air. Sort of also on the artistic side, one of the things I've been thinking about with AI is AI art. It's been, growing, becoming more prevalent within our space. And one of the things that make me concerned, in fact, one of your AI experts talked about how it could lead to more opportunities for creative jobs, but what I've been worried about is seeing it how corporations in creative fields are maybe using AI in ways to actually phase out sort of creative jobs. And what I worry is how it might, say, take away some of the creative process from some creative works, where it's AI created opening scenes or scripts or things like that. So I just wanted to hear about what your thoughts were in regards to AI coming into the creative fields.
Great question. Luce, Kara, what about that?
Yeah, it's been a big issue with the Hollywood writers' strike. I think the problem is maybe some of their stuff is replicable, right? That a sitcom sounds like a sitcom, that there's not a lot of creativity. Truly human creativity will not be harmed here. This is the thing. What happens is a lot of stuff is formulaic, and so they can start to, everybody's formulaic on some level. If you get enough data, right, you can figure out what someone's like. You don't quite get to them, but you can mimic them. It's like anyone, an impersonator, really. And so one of the things the Hollywood people are worried about is that they will be able to shove in someone's shows, all the Law and Orders, and create more. Well, some might say it's, someone could do that. That's pretty easy because of the way the shows go. And so that's that's an issue, but I'm not sure I call that creativity. I'm not sure what I call it entertainment, I guess. I don't think you're going to get, let me just say, Taylor Swift's job is not under siege here on this kind of stuff because she's a unique creative spirit. They probably could mimic it, and they've done that with music. And that'll be interesting too. I just don't necessarily think it's going to replace truly creative people. But a whole lot of stuff is much more replaceable than you think. Mm-hmm. And that's what you've got to do is, one, use the stuff. That's what I keep saying. See what it does, and then see how it could help you. And then you should really understand how it could hurt you and what you're doing. And it may take a hard look at what you're doing and realize you need to move to something that this can't do. And there's tons and tons and tons of jobs that this will not replace. Also.
Show promo opportunity coming up in a few minutes. We're going to hear an example of AI versus not AI music. But first, let's go to Christopher, who's joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, Christopher. Welcome to the middle.
Hi. So I'm a professional artist. I use technology. I use AI. I use blockchain, all those sorts of things. I have a humanitarian concern regarding AI, and it's that the reason we're developing AI is because it does things as well as people, and it does it cheaper than people do. But the problem is, my question is, how our society is going to adapt to that problem that it introduces? Because if the benefits of the productivity of AI are not shared with the people openly, how will the people afford the benefits of AI if they're just packaged and sold to them? Because we won't be employable.
Let's take that to Tim Estes. Tim, Are we going to be
Well,
all?
I mean,
Are we
as
going
a,
to be?
as
Yeah,
like a
right. Go
kind of
ahead.
Billy Joel fan, I mean, I remember the song Allentown, and you kind of think about, the Allentown issue here relative to job displacement and societies being disrupted, and like sort of microcultures that are really good at a certain set of things that are all going to go away. Now, this is white collar now, not blue collar, as Kara said well earlier. And so I think that what's going to end up happening is there is an enormous I think the speed of it is really the part that's really dangerous is the speed of the change and the arrival of the tech being so good so fast and being essentially free to scale. Those things mean that businesses will have almost an irresistible urge to automate whatever they can to create margin. And that should have a deflationary effect. So the good thing is we may have found an antidote to a lot of the stuff we've had to live with the last handful of years since COVID. But at the same time, that doesn't really help if you're making zero. And so I think that what happening is the global outsourcing of labor probably will have a new analog, which is the global automation of labor, which will also open up the ability to have it closer at home. But if we don't think of creative ways to essentially, I mean, upskill is probably not the right word. Maybe a good writer like Kara can give me a better word here, but almost like AI assisted upskilling of current labor, then there really is a risk of economic and social upheaval. I think you're going to see a populist potential backlash against this that dwarfs things like Brexit and Trump and others. That's a real risk if it's not handled well. And I'm looking to leaders, like political leaders that are thoughtful enough to look ahead on this, because we need to have that right now. We don't need it in a year. We need it right now, given the pace of things.
Right. Or create things like UBI. That's, people, let's start thinking about, should we work so much? Should we not work so much? It gives you an opportunity here. Like I said, I'm not an acceleration or a deceleration. It's what's coming. I'm just telling you the time. That's all. You know what I mean? Like, and what's
inevitablist.
Inevitablist, right? And so it makes sense from a shareholder perspective for these companies to do this. They will do it. They're capitalists. This is what capitalists do. They move to try to create costs. So what do you want to do about it? And then what kind of jobs are protected? What should humans be doing? Could we is there a way to do a new way of humans not doing, like, is rote work any better? No, it's not. It makes people sad and depressed and drinking and so what is good work and what should people be doing? Should they be doing more art? Should they be doing more? Gosh, there's a lot of elderly people that need help. That computer's not going to fix that for a long, long time. There's no robots ready to take that on today. There's all kinds of really big challenges. Education we face, at paucity of teachers, even though people go on and on about truck drivers and I'm not going to get into electric automated trucks because they're in Texas right now. But should people be driving trucks? There's not enough of them, by the way. People always say it's going to get rid of jobs. There's not enough truck drivers. Maybe they could drive them on the highways, be much safer, and then you have truck drivers drive goods into the cities.
But is anybody thinking about this at the government level that actually knows enough about it to think about the future and how to do? Yes, you say yes.
The Biden administration just put out an executive order that had a lot of this stuff in it, a lot of safety issues and everything else. And it's one of the problems is our government has abrogated responsibility to regulate tech in any way, and we're playing catch up on the previous group of companies, which are the current group of companies. And so that's what we really need to do. And I think legislatures are paying attention, especially to the safety issues. And they have to be paying attention to the job issues because it's a drastic change and it will be fast, like Tim says.
Let's go to Jim in Cloquet, Minnesota. Hi, Jim. You're on the air. Welcome to The Middle.
Thanks for having me on. My question is, I heard at least one company was advertising their AI as hallucination free. And until I heard that wasn't something I had worried about. I guess after listening to your show, I heard the one woman say, it's a great tool when it's not hallucinating. Is that something we should be worried about? And how do we remain aware and educated enough to know when it is hallucinating?
Okay, Jim, we've got it. Tim, actually, that is a term that's used about AI, hallucination. Yeah. What does that mean? How do you answer that question?
So, I mean, I'll try to be more charitable to the AI. So, hallucination means essentially it will state something that is unfactual with deep conviction in a way that's compelling, because it's almost like it's imagining as if it's real, thus the word hallucination. What really is a better analogy is think of these giant AIs as a giant lossy compression of the whole internet, almost like the old JPEGs as they would fade into a page. And the initial couple of views were kind of fuzzy. And I think as they get better and better, they'll be less fuzzy, they'll be precise. But right now, they're still at somewhat low resolution to be able to be highly accurate. And so people are putting various technologies around those core models to make this better. I'm a bit skeptical of something being truly hallucination free. There's just too many really smart people working that problem still. So I would think that has to be in a very narrow domain, or maybe an AI wrote that ad saying it was hallucination free. Yeah. So it could work both ways.
Yeah, it's also the crap in, crap out. That's an old. If the data's bad, they have to fix the data or the instructions. And look, again, people hallucinate; they're wrong, and so this just does it on a huge hyped up level.
We've got a comment from at listentothemiddle.com from T. Woodson from Illinois, Tolliver.
I strongly believe the advances in AI tech are both spectacular and terrifying. The pharmaceutical industry cannot release drugs without clinical trials and federal approval. This is a wise thing to do. Similarly, tech companies should not be allowed to release AI without societal trials and federal approval.
Kara?
Yeah, that's what was in the executive order is safety issues and testing of the safety issues requiring that, of course, Congress needs to act. So the Congress is completely not acted in any. We don't have a privacy bill, a national privacy bill. We don't have antitrust. Look, they need to put in safety guardrails in that the government, just like you do for cars or planes or anything else. And the idea that they can't regulate this is a canard because they regulate everything else and they can figure it out. And there's lots of smart people in government who can do it.
I think I can squeeze one more call in. Ali is in Boston. Hi, Ali. Welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Hey, y'all. Thank you. So like most things in tech, it usually, a lot of things have come from, the military, and they're often, the affluent either get first dibs or with the help of the creators. The first thing that I think of was for a while, I remember seeing a thing about cell phones where to open faces, like to open up your phone, the phones were having a hard time reading darker skinned folks' faces to open it, right? Mm-hmm. So my question is actually in concern, I guess I'm on the terrified side, is around policing and dissent and how, this can affect, what's the most efficient way to squash whatever protest is happening, or, maybe to get access to land to refine oil. We're extremely flawed people. And we do have people, I think, in power who are honestly kind of hallucinating. And how can we, I don't even think that we are protecting the world. And I think about indigenous folks. How can they have access to this? Because in terms of protecting the earth and the planet, and, they make up 20% at this point, but 80% of the land is like something that they are happy to steward, and it's within their beliefs.
Ali, let me take that to our guest. Yes, we've got it. Let me take it to our guest, Tim, just briefly about, the issue of bias is a big one and how police may use AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back once again to the human agency. We keep personifying technology here. And in the end, it's a set of human decisions or a set of human neglect that tends to create these situations. So, for instance, the human neglect could be training sets that were insufficiently representative. Mm-hmm. And there already are, to what Kara had said, like regulators are looking at this, governments are looking at it. There is a role for government to play that it hasn't traditionally played in tech. And I think that's got to be part of the answer.
All right. I said we were going to have a little game here. Tolliver, we have time very briefly for a quiz.
Absolutely.
For our guests.
I'm going to play you 2 clips of Beyonce singing cover songs. One is AI, one is real. You simply tell me which one is AI, the first clip or the second. Winner gets the title to my Prius. Jump in when you got it. Here's the first clip.
When I saw you and that girl walking around.
And here is the second.
It's your thing, yeah. Do what you want to do. And I can tell you who to sock at you.
The second one was real.
I agree.
It was the first.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Wow. Yeah. That is very.
It shows a deceptive part.
Some experts we are, but yeah.
Well, I want to thank
Taylor. If you did Taylor, you wouldn't have gotten it back.
Yeah.
Kara Swisher, tech journalist and host of the popular podcast On with Kara Swisher and Pivot. Her new memoir is Burn Book, a tech love story. Kara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And AI entrepreneur Tim Estes, CEO of Angel AI, who also sits on the board of the Nashville-based innovation studio. Tim, great to have you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Pleasure being on.
And Tolliver, what is on tap for next week's show?
Happiness. We're asking what made you happy in 2023 other than the return of the McRib.
By the way, Tolliver, as you know, we have a weekly newsletter. It is free. People can sign up at listentothemiddle.com. The Middle is brought to you by Long Nook Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, and produced by Joanne Jennings, John Barth, Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, and Charlie Little. Our technical director this week is Steve Mork. Our theme music was composed by Andrew Haig. Thanks also to Nashville Public Radio, iHeartMedia, and the more than 370 public radio stations that are making it possible for people across the country to listen to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Talk to you next week.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Saturday, May 2nd, country's biggest stars will be in Austin, Texas at our 2026 iHeart Country Festival presented by Capital One. See Kane Brown, Parker McCullum, Riley Green, Shabuzi, Dylan Scott, Russell Dickerson, Gretchen Wilson, Chase Matthew, Lauren Elena. Tickets are on sale now. Get yours before they sell out at Ticketmaster.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.